And our first story, some residents of Mepe and Bato in the Volta region spent the night on bare cold floors without electricity due to the flooding caused by the spillage of excess water from the Akosombo Dam by the Volta River Authority. Now, many have had to move to higher grounds to share homes with friends and loved ones in other communities. Now, others passed the night in front of closed shops with no hope in sight. Beyond the unbearable nature of displacements caused by the floods, the residents are also lamenting the distraction to their property and even food items. Now, the spillage, which reached catastrophic levels yesterday, forced authorities to close down schools and cut power supply. The situation has become dire, with the National Disaster Management Organization, NADMO, yet to reach many affected communities. Now, joining us live is Joseph Armstrong, who has spent the night with some affected residents. Good morning, Joseph. Now, how did these residents manage through the night?
Yeah, Judith, yes, last night was terrible. Yesterday we were in Mepe, and when we got the call that the residents of Abato have also been hit by the flood, so we quickly rushed in there. Earlier in the day yesterday, the residents of Abato were free. So they never knew the flood could get to where they were. And in the evening around 11 p.m., they also got their share of the floods. And they also started moving their things to Avene and other side of the community.
Right. Now, have they had any assistance yet, maybe from NADMO?
So as of yesterday around 11 p.m. through to this dawn, around 1 a.m. thereabout, we didn't see any NADMO officials around. So the assemblymen were trying to call for the NADMO officials to come to their assistance. This morning, they still sent NADMO officials to where they were, because they were in other parts of the communities trying to help others also. Because we were told some people trapped in their homes. So NADMO officials were concerned more about the people who were trapped. Yes.
Right.
So to go to Adan side, where all these flood waters are going to end up in the sea. And I speak to you right now, almost all the communities along the Adan riverbank area, they've all been washed away by the flood waters. That this morning we are told the situation there is even more bad. That the NADMO officials there tells me they are now mobilizing to go in there to rescue the people along the Adan side as well.
Right. Thank you very much for your time. That's my colleague Armstrong Gold Aloba. He's been to different parts of the region trying to siphon the situation that has been going on right there. Now, meanwhile, the Deputy Minister of Energy, Herbert Krapper, says government is working with the appropriate state institutions to bring immediate relief to those affected by the floods. He was speaking to the media after visiting the Akosombo Dam.
Different people have different interests. We as a government, our interest is to protect the national asset and cushion the people who are affected by the spill. And I think it is important for us to first take counsel and advice from the engineers, the experts, who understand that if you don't release the water at the level that you are releasing it, and it rises above the maximum allowed level, the dam will be destroyed. And so I would wish that the Member of Parliament will speak from an engineering, scientific point of view. They are very, very near the maximum level of 277.5, I believe. If they do not do so, we risk a potential damage to the dam.
Now, on to some more stories now. And founder and CEO of defunct Capital Bank, William Atoyesian, ran out of lifelines as the Commercial Court 7 of Accra High Court finally sentenced him to imprisonment for money laundering and stealing. This follows his failure to pay in full amount of 90 million Ghana cedis he agreed to pay the state after entering a plea bargain in December 2022. Lord Eduasare reports.
Pain, distraught. Pain, distraught, and regret. These words summed up the reaction of former CEO of Capital Bank, William Atoyesian. Although partially masked with the aid of a face mask, his countenance was telling after Justice Eric Bafo read out the judgment against him. After pleading guilty to 16 counts of stealing and money laundering, Atu Essien entered a plea bargain with the state under Section 35(7) of the Court Act 459. He was to pay 90 million Ghana cedis, but paid 30 million on December 1, 2022. As part of the agreement, the former Capital Bank CEO was to pay the remaining 60 million Ghana cedis in tranches in 2023, 20 million Ghana cedis by April 28, another 20 million cedis by August 31, and finally 20 million cedis by December 15, 2023. The court cautioned him that failure to meet any of the deadlines would result in a custodial sentence. However, by April 28, Atu Essien had only raised 4 million cedis and another 3 million by October 12. Justice Bafo's patience had grown thin after lawyers for Atu Essien pleaded for an additional 6 months when the case was called on Thursday. He noted that he had hoped the convict would take advantage of the long break to raise the remainder of the money. Prosecution filed a motion to impose custodial sentence after it became apparent that the convicts would not be able to pay the remaining 53 million cedis. Justice Eric Bafo described William Atu Essien's offences as grave, something that had resulted in several customers of the defunct Capital Bank losing their jobs, some of whom were still looking for employment today. Reading his judgment, the presiding judge sentenced Atu Essien to 95 years in prison and hard labor for the 16 counts of stealing and money laundering. The terms will, however, run concurrently. Hence, he is to spend 15 years in jail. Lodi Dwasari, TV3 News, Accra High Court.
Now let's stay on this particular issue, and Deputy Attorney General Alfred Tuah has expressed dissatisfaction at the court's decision. He tells TV3 in an exclusive interview that part of the funds have been recovered and the convict could appeal against his sentence if he pays the rest of the money.
Now that he's been imprisoned, if he gets the money to pay, that's another ballgame. We'll look at it. Because after the court has given delivered its ruling or judgment, the court becomes factus official. And so my expectation is that when he pays, then perhaps it will go into mitigate when he wants to appeal against the sentence. But I'm here to get a full ruling. We'll go through it and see what the judge said. But so far as we are concerned, the sentence into 15 years imprisonment. Let's hope that he gets the money to pay. And let me also add, even if he's going to serve the 15 years, Ghanaians have also benefited somehow, because at least 37 million has been paid to the state. If he had been sentenced last year, we couldn't have even recovered a cedi or a peswa. So there's now utility in the decision that we took last year concerning our decision to enter into an agreement with him to take advantage of such 35. If nothing at all, the state is now richer by 37+ million Ghana cedis.
The goal is to recover the monies, but Capital Bank is one of several banks that collapsed. And I mean, what happens to the other banks that are pending? You need to recover those monies as well to the customers.
Yeah, as we speak, we have other cases in court. Beige Capital is in court. We are hearing the matter, and then I don't know when we'll be able to finish, but we've gone far. UT is also in court. Then you have other banks, Dr. Dufour's Bank, they're also in court. So there's a series of cases in court. We are doing them one after the other, and let's get there.
Meanwhile, Director of Operations at Dialex Finance says although the sentencing will engender confidence in the laws governing Ghana's banking sector, the full amount should still be refunded to the state to serve as a deterrent to other people.
My initial thought was sadness. And sadness, my sadness was on two levels. Number one is that more than a conviction, we really need to get our money back. The public purse was raided to resolve this issue. And if there's an establishment that funds have been misused, we have to get the money back. And so the conviction just shows that we haven't still been able to get the money back. And for me, that's sad. And then the second level of sadness is this. You see, Capital Bank represented local, indigenous ownership of our financial sector. Nobody is going to grow this country or our financial sector for us. Eventually, Ghanaians have to own it so that we can do the best for this country and not ship the money out or ship the money in, depending on where you stand. It's a really good thing, not just for the financial sector alone, but all of corporate Ghana. So in that sense, showing that our legal systems work, showing that you can't get away with doing the wrong thing, that's wonderful.
Now, a Chief Justice has begun a probe to determine whether a new High Court judge should be taxed to handle the Celia Dapaah case. The Office of the Special Prosecutor has filed a petition claiming that current Judge Edward Chum is biased.
The Special Prosecutor believes he will get a fair trial and it will be in the interest of justice if a new judge handles the case. Lawyers from the office were not present in court, but a representative who showed up informed the court of the letter that had been made available. Justice Edward Chum, who is handling the case, indicated that he had been made aware of a petition to the Chief Justice asking that he recuses himself. Lawyers for Madam Dapaah, led by Victoria Bath, were not impressed with this development. She informed the court that it was an ill-fated application geared at frustrating Madam Dapaah, and so she wanted to put that forcefully on record. The court therefore adjourned that particular case to the October 18. That case is in respect of the request for there should be a confirmation of the seizure and freezing order that was issued by the Office of Special Prosecutor. In respect of the second case, that is the criminal case against Celia Dapaah for failing to comply with a lawful demand by the Special Prosecutor, that one also, a petition has been sent to the Chief Justice as well, asking for a new judge. And so that case was also adjourned to October 18. For TV3, from the Law Court Complex, Joseph Akabile reporting.
Now, speakers at the Media General National Dialogue on Assets Declaration in the country are advocating for a more stringent sanction regime for public officers involved in asset declaration processes. Now, they contend that public officers do not attach seriousness to the process because there's no clear punishment for not complying with the requirement.
Public Office Holder Declaration of Assets and Disqualification Act 1998 Act 550 requires all public office holders to declare their assets and liabilities before assuming office. Failure to do this will require that the office holder is investigated and sanctioned accordingly. But Commissioner of the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice Joseph Withal argues that the sanctions are not punitive enough.
If you look at since the 1992 Constitution came into being, Chapter 24 only gave a skeletal outline of what requires to be done. The nearest we came to is to pass the Act 550, which is the Public Officers Qualification and Disqualification Assets Declaration Act. And that, I think, was a shoddy job done by Parliament. I must say, with all respect to Parliament. If you look at what should be in an asset declaration law, what is provided there is as if we are taking public service as a process by which we want to hide public servants from the people who they are supposed to serve. Public service is a trust. If you want to govern the people well, let the people know before you came into office what assets and liabilities you had. I stress the liabilities too, because if you are somebody who is indebted and you come and you take public office, the likelihood is that you may not be able to do, you may be looking for resources to take care of your liabilities. So we should make sure that we keep the balance very well.
Private legal practitioner Martin Pebu noted that the current form of the Conduct of Public Officers Bill before Parliament needs review.
There must be an improvement on this one. This can't be the one, because if it's we call it 2022, this one is just a repetition of the current constitutional provision, Article 286, right? So it tells you that there is a newer and better version. The US one, you have to apply. Kenya, you have to apply. I've been circulating that because I pulled the Kenyan one off the net, and you see that you apply, and they look at the reasons and determine to give you or not to give you.
The focus of the program is to prevent political corruption by requiring public office holders to declare their assets. And the Ghana Center for Democratic Development, CDD Ghana, says spouses of public office holders should also be compelled to declare their assets.
That expectation also that if you are in public office, you should amass all these assets and whatever, is also a problem that we have to confront. Publication, regularity, even expanding it to spouses. Because that's, I mean, the evidence is there. We can look at how corruption occurs in our space. And there are cases, convictions, that we know exactly the DNA of corruption in this place. And that should guide us when we are legislating on how to stop it.
The dialogue was on the theme, Fighting Public Sector Corruption in Ghana, making a case for an effective assets declaration law.
Let's do some sports now. The Black Stars of Ghana have been drawn in Group B of the 2023 Africa Cup of Nations Mondial, which will be hosted by Cote d'Ivoire next year. Black Stars will have to beat Egypt, Cape Verde and Mozambique to qualify out of the group stages of the competition. The draw took place in the host nation, and we'll bring you details of that in our subsequent bulletins. And that's all for the news here on TV3. My name is Judith Brown. We'll bring you more details after with New Day. Do stay tuned.